honorable dignitaries, teachers, mentors, research scholars, and dear participants. On behalf of the entire research wing of Theophilus Training College, I once again welcome you all to the 68th talk series of our program, Insight in Depth. Let us now begin today's session by seeking the blessings of Almighty with a word of prayer. Lord, we pray that you will bless this program. We especially pray for Dr. Vidyanand, who is going to enlighten us with his knowledge and experience. We pray for the smooth conduct of this program. Bless each of the participants so that they use the knowledge gained to become better equipped to face their professional life. Amen. Let's now move on. I now invite Mrs. Lygia for the welcome speech. Mrs. Lygia, please.
Respected Principal, Dr. K.Y. Benedict Sir, today's Chief Guest, Dr. Vidyanand Sambhaji Khandaghale, our Research Coordinator, Dr. Bindu B., all our teachers, and my dear friends. Though not physically together, we are connected together today for our 68th Insight In-Depth Talk series. And I'm interested with the duty of welcoming you all to this talk series. Even though we do not need to welcome our own guiding spirit, who is very much one among us, I welcome as a part of traditional welcoming, I welcome our beloved principal, Dr. K.Y. Benedict Sir, to this talk series. And we have a very promising figure today with a very vibrant, relevant topic, which is very much apt to the contemporary period. And I believe our chief guest, Dr. Vidyanand Sir, Assistant Professor of the Sambhaji University, Kolhapur, will brew our minds and brains with his topic, computational thinking. On behalf of the whole team of Theophilus Training College, I welcome you, sir, to this talk series. And as human beings, we always need a motivator to take us forward. And in our institution, we have such a wonderful person named Dr. Bindu B., our research coordinator. Teacher, a very hearty welcome to you too. And I would also like to welcome all our teachers and all the research scholars and friends to this talk series. And once again, a very hearty welcome to each and every one of you to the 68th Insight In-Depth Talk series of Theophilus Training College. Thank you.
Thank you, Lygia, for the welcome address. The purpose of today's gathering is to discover a problem-solving process, computational thinking, which is needed in all disciplines. Today we have an eminent personality, Dr. Vidyanand, to share his views on the subject. I invite Mrs. Sangeeta to introduce the guest of honor. Mrs. Sangeeta, please.
Good evening, all of you. On this 68th Insight In-Depth Talk series, we are going to listen to a person, Dr. Vidyanand Khandaghale, who has achieved excellence in his academic career and possesses a good number of skills to cope with the present educational system. Today's topic for discussion is computational knowledge, which enables real-world problem solving and can get access to the process of the concept coding. Now we move on to the details of our chief guest. At present, Vidyanand Sir is performing his duty as Assistant Professor, Department of Education, Sambhaji University, Maharashtra. And about his academic details, he's got MSc in Chemistry, MEd, qualified NET with JRF, and awarded PhD. And about the research specialization, Economics and Management of Education, ICT and Education, and above all related to distance education. He has got 11 years of teaching experience in departments of education in different universities, especially SNDT Women's University, Churchgate, Mumbai, and Sambhaji University, Maharashtra. He has guided almost 90 MEd theses, has played his role as principal investigator and co-investigator in important research projects. During the period of 2018 and 20, he has undertaken a project named Development of Prevention Program for Child Abuse and Neglect with reference to the government policies and practices in educational institution, a very relevant topic. Again, he is a member of Indian Adult Education Association, Association of Chemistry Teachers, member of various committees and examinations. And again, he has played a great number of roles in Shivaji University as placement officer, department NAC coordinator, task force committee member, department coordinator, team leader, mentor, etc., etc. And he is talented enough to coordinate a good number of workshops also. He has coordinated courses like postgraduate diploma in mass communication education, postgraduate diploma in teacher training programs, and certificate course on research methodology. Again, act as a course coordinator of value-added course on disruptive technologies for higher education. He has published a good number of articles in international journals and contributed chapters including statistical data, counseling psychology, curriculum framework, and teacher education in India, some issues and implications. Really, it's not possible for me to enlist all his achievements. It's such a wonderful teacher educator from Shivaji University, Maharashtra.
Thank you.
Dr. Vidyanand sir, it is a
Thank you.
distinct knowledge to welcome you to this open platform to share your views. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Sangeeta ma'am.
Sir, let me just give a few announcements before you start, sir, please.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, thank you, sir. Before we get started, a few announcements and humble requests to all the participants. Kindly mute your microphones. If you have any queries during the presentation, please type them into the chat box. We will bring them up for discussion at the end. E-certificates for participation will be issued, so kindly mark your attendance and share your thoughts and experiences through the Google form. Now, I request Dr. Vidyanand, such an eminent personality. We are indeed lucky to have you today, sir. Please, share your views with us. The platform is yours, sir.
Thank you. A very warm good evening to one and all. At the outset, I thanked Dr. K.Y. Benedict sir, Principal, Dr. Bindu ma'am, for inviting me on the 68th Insight In-Depth talk. It has been a privilege to interact with you all. Thank you for the wonderful introduction, Sangeeta ma'am. It's an honor to me. Thank you, the entire team. Friends, we are planning, like we had been developing computational thinking, and we all might be going through because we are working with computers. And that computational thinking was only related with, or only a form of with, where people from computer science or form of algorithm were taught and was supposed to be. But going through various projects we had been developing, and we're trying to design a pedagogical tool in terms of computational thinking. And for that, what the brief idea of computational thinking, or what form of computational thinking can be thought of in our teaching learning process, that's what we had planned and thought of. So keeping all that perspective, I had planned that what is the concept of computational thinking with reference to pedagogical point of view, although it is all related to computers, and from that end it was thought of that. But computational thinking can be thought of a pedagogical to of a practices which can be, or which might be implemented in our classrooms with reference to problem solving. It might be applied. Now that depends. Now we all teachers are going through tremendous change, and we are in the transition process. That's what I feel, transition process, because in post-pandemic we had been experiencing so many different things. I know that one of the online tool had also helped us to get connected with you and interact with you. So with that brief form of thing, we had thinking of a computational thinking, how it can be and how it would be important in terms of teaching process or in terms of a pedagogical tool. So allow me to present my presentation. Yeah. Is it legible, ma'am?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you, ma'am. So, computational thinking. So basically, what do we understand and what form of thinking has been done in computational thinking? Basically, it's a problem-solving process that had been introduced while discussing and while the prior introduction was made. That includes, but is not limited to the following characteristics. That is how we had adopted from this is ISTE, and then formulating problems in a way that enables us to use computers and other tools to help solve them, logically organizing and analyzing data, representing data through abstractions such as models and simulations, automating solutions through algorithm thinking, a series of ordered steps. This is a part which I found interesting of identifying, analyzing, and implementing possible solutions with the goal of achieving the most efficient and effective combination of steps and resources. So this has been done earlier also as well, while we were doing problem solving in terms of, and then no, there were an approach of doing this, analyzing, identifying, but what combination and what form of thing that has to be think in computational will be just seen in further presentation. Generalizing and transferring this problem solving process to a wide variety of problems. So basically, guys, this is what a basic form of computational. You might have gone through various book and Mr. Yadav. There are other people who had been working and that they had referred in various forms. There are beautiful courses with reference to computational thinking as well for problem solving. So I found this was very interesting in terms of to teach students, because all we talk about different 21st century skills, but 21st century skills we talk about communication, collaboration, and two form of important thinking, that is critical thinking and creative thinking. And we think that these are the four basic form, other than various skills has been enlisted and we had been striving for, but these are the four components of computational thinking which we adopted for this presentation, like decomposition, pattern recognition, abstractions, and algorithm. So this is how we'll be discussing in terms of our gradual one by one steps with what it expected it. And we just need to be a teacher educators or teachers that how it can be very effectively implemented in our classrooms. Ma'am, is it fine, the speed, and then is it legible?
Sir, your slides are not moving, sir.
Yeah, yeah, I understood. Just a second, ma'am. This is
Yes,
the
sir.
thing.
I think you could switch on. Ah, yes, now it's visible.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
sometimes when we put a full screen, then it occurs. Anyways, so this is one. Is it fine with this presentation, or should I make a full slideshow,
So if
or is
you,
it
you
legit?
if you could make it into slideshow, it would be better, sir.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. So these are the four components what I was talking about computational thinking. That is first decomposition, pattern recognition, abstractions, and algorithm. So this is what we had adopted for this form of computational thinking, and we'll be seeing that how these each steps can be implemented in very well in our classrooms in different forms. Okay, so what are the tasks involved? That is a very brief idea of this involved in each core component. The one component first, what we had discussed in earlier chart, you'll see that decomposition. What decomposition, the word itself is self-explanatory, and you can just think of decomposing the things, breaking down complex problems into smaller or simpler problems. And then the second part is about a pattern recognition, where making connections between similar problems and experiences. The first part is the breaking down complex problems in a smaller, simpler problems. That is how you decompose the first part. Second, a pattern recognition, making connections between similar problems and experience. So similar problems and experiences has to be identified in terms of pattern recognition. Then we can move with the abstraction. These are the tasks where you can identifying important information while ignoring unrelated or irrelevant details. We have to sort down the things, and then abstraction, identifying important information, that is very important stage. And then the last form where we talked about algorithm, designing simple steps to solve problems. That's how to solve the problem, because its entire process goes on. One more thing we need to add in this is that what we try to, in terms of, you need to understand the contextualization. So that is the additional form of things which we had tried to implement that. While doing all this form, we also need to understand at what context it is going on. Contextualization is equally important, and hence we are in that process of doing it. So how we are trying to incorporate a computational thinking among students, like what things can be done in terms of that. That's what we have been thinking of. Okay, the first stage, what we had discussed in the form, that what I try to add in that is contextualization. We need to teach, we need to implement, understand the student in what context and how it has to be there, and how we can implement in terms of computational thinking among the student. So decomposition, students are invited into problem solving scenarios. As we had discussed earlier, teachers share the complex multi-step problem and facilitate conversations that help students to break it down, breaking a complex problem into more manageable sub-problems. In doing this, students design to develop a framework of strategic computational thinking. So that is the first stage, where decomposition, and that has to be very well teach or very well implemented in the classrooms. So to understand the first, basically, what a decomposition has to be done. So complex multi-step problems and facilitate conversation. Conversations are important, that helps students to get down. So group work, as we talk about participative learning, experimental learning, so that it helps students to form a group, and breaking a complex problem into more manageable sub problems. That had, you need to a bigger one, and then you have to identify a smaller one where it can be managed at the earlier stage. Teacher might describe a scenario such as planning an event that involves multiple steps. This type of task can quickly become overwhelming without an organized to-do list of smaller, more approachable challenges. Student can help to break down the larger task, and the teacher can help to draw or write a visual representation of their thinking, giving students a mental map of how to solve similar problems in future. So with this, we had tried experimentation while conducting certain problems we gave to our students. We have a course of Bachelor's in Education and Master's in Education, 3 years integrated program at our Department of Education, along with Masters of Education. And we gave central scenarios for a teaching level, for the experimentation, where I had tried to make that, how to make online learning effective. On the problem for online learning, because I know there were students who were asking various issues like, we don't have network, we don't have infrastructure, we don't have, so there were so many things which was there in their problem of list. So we just experimented in that terms of that way when we implement in our classrooms. So you can also have that, such as a planning of an event, because that involves multiple steps. We have a lot of programs in your teacher education programs where we ask students to conduct a specific group and an event. As today it was a Mahatma Phule birth anniversary in our department, so we asked them to have that planning of a program and who will do what. Although they plan it very well, but they don't think of that what problems. There are few people who are very aggressive, or they want to do that, they manage it. But we try to put it on the paper, and where we try to plan the event with multiple steps. So a type of text task can be quickly and become, that is how we do that, and to-do list, and that way we had tried to make it in that form. The second stage of decomposition, later on second stage, would be a pattern recognition. This is a very important and very interesting stage as well. Pattern recognition as a cornerstone of a computational thinking. Begin with the basics AB pattern creation, depends on the contents of the grade, and extend or to more complex layers of thinking. It invites students to analyze similar objects. That is what experiences and identifying commonalities. By finding out the objects or experiences have in common, student can begin to develop an understanding of trends and are therefore able to make predictions. So pattern recognition as first stage of what it was of decomposition. Then we had a pattern recognition as a second step, where similar patterns are identified with terms of computational thinking. Now, these are the examples which we had talked, and fortunately, I got an opportunity to do a course on this also on MOOC. So we adopted certain form which had been referred in the end of the session. To teach students to recognize pattern, teacher might begin by investigating trees. Now, this would be a very small examples where we can have implement in the classrooms. What do all trees have in common? They all have a trunk, they all have roots, they all have branches. So that's where you can just identify. Well, there are many differences between types of trees. These components are present in all trees. Next, work with your students to create collage of trees. Notice how they all have trunks, root, and branches, because they see around you, and then they can identify. There is a mango tree when there is a different plant tree or flowery tree. So that way you have to identify. Although they all have same thing, but patterns are different. So pattern recognition skills can be developed in this way. Then talk about how the trunks differ from one another. Some are thick, while others are thin. Some are brown, while others are white. Like this way, you have to identify that based on depend on, and that's the reason we had tried to implement in contextualization. The rural students, urban students, we need to understand, and accordingly, examples has been allocated or can be given where you can identify where they will learn in terms of pattern recognition. I think such experimentations were also conducted where you can find in Hoshangabad syllabus, where Eklavya Swadhyamala in 1980s, different grassroots models were tried to develop by Dr. Anil Sadgopal and other expertise who had talked about in the similar form. So we found very interesting, and that is how that. So this was one of the example which we took in pattern recognition. That all are dogs, but everybody like dogs have 4 legs, the face, mouth, but you'll see that the patterns are differing based on their breed or based on their form of that. So that is example that can be taught and that can be explained in pattern recognition. Finding patterns simplifies tasks because you can use what you already know. By teaching students to recognize patterns, their awareness of the world around them expands. Basically, so when they start identifying pattern recognition, they themselves feel now they get involved in that. This helps them to use the patterns they have identified to solve future problems and make predictions about the world. Now, the third stage, what third task, a core task of the computational thinking is about abstraction. Abstraction is focusing on the information that is relevant and important. It involves separating core information about extraneous details. Okay, so abstraction is focusing on the information that is relevant and important. It involves separating core information from the extraneous details. For instance, in classroom, teachers teach the concept of abstraction with literature as they have identified the main ideas and key details. To make this one step further, teachers can encourage students to hunt for information, clues, and treasures by giving them a goal as they approach a book or even an experience. As a student listens to the speaker during a school presentation about personal hygiene, a class might be hunting for details about hygiene. So that way abstractions can be implemented and can be inculcated in the classroom. By teaching students abstraction, they are able to sort through all the information available. And nowadays it's very important because we an ICT or e-learning or basically computers, Google is an important source. So they start learning. Basically now also if you see that student, even though some of them, few of them, not all might be there, but most of them, the moment the word comes or the concept goes to them, they start to Google it and they identify. So for teachers, it's again a very good opportunity to get involved as well as challenge also, because they will find so many things with reference to that. So that way they also learn of a different thing. This is an invaluable skill as students read larger text and are presented with more and more complex information. So there are so many different tools and different forms, applications where students, they had been growing up with all this task of information. So abstraction. So they might get solutions also for the specific problem which they have in their own context. There are so much of exploration of information. You can ask them, and then they can identify this would suit better, or this can be implied, or this can be applied in a context. So abstraction. So that we found very interesting. So we had in terms of that. Ma'am, is it fine going with the speed and all? Because I could not see
Yes, sir.
anybody.
Yes, sir.
I hope it's going on.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Okay, with abstraction, then we, as we had discussed, this invaluable skill. Then we will be moving with the last, or no, that what we had designed is fifth stage, that is algorithm. Algorithm thinking involves developing solution to the problems Specifically, it creates sequential rules to follow in order to solve problem. Can be described in English as a flow chart. Like flow chart, basically we had taught them earlier also. They might develop in the flow chart, but with these steps of contextualization, then we can ask them for decomposition, then pattern recognition, and then abstractions. They can develop a very good sequential solutions for the problem. That problems can be around them, that problems has to be from curriculum, which we could relate them, and that way it can be a basic flowchart can be developed. Whereas different tools can be implemented, where we have free plane like a tool where we can utilize to the students to solve that. Because we had experimented, and then I found very good results among them. They start creating their own flowcharts. That is a free tool where we share with them, and then they started solving the problems. Because when we gave them the problem, as I told you about online learning process or online teaching process, making effective. So from basic problems, they had tried to decompose as network issues, network problems, then the learner engagement. As you can see now also, when I interact, I'm interacting to the screen. And even I know that many of them would be there listening there, and at the same time, you might also have faced the same problem in learner engagement. So they had made the concept in a different form, where they had identified network issue, what has to be done. So there were a few students who were from tribal from like Gadchiroli and other part of our Maharashtra, where they don't have network issue. So then I asked them to find what can be provided them. Then we find Jitsi app, where they have low bandwidth and free of charge, where it's a free open source software. So such small things, and they get involved. They feel very happy for that, because they identified, we got involved in that. So small. Then teaching learning, what can be learner engaged while doing online learning or teaching process. While teaching learning, how they has to be effect. So they had suggested different activity, different form, different tools. They tried at their level to identify, and then a sequence were formed. So that was how the experience went here. Can be described in English as a flowchart. But if, for instance, students might be asked to think about making a tea, herbal tea. This is a form of example. What should we do first? Second, conversation about sequence and order develop the foundation of algorithm thinking. To get student thinking in algorithm, basically when we ask them, they start answering in a very random way. They will say this. They whatever they say is not wrong, but the form of sequence they differs, and then it initiates the algorithm form of thinking. To get student thinking in algorithm, invite them to design the path from their classroom to the gym by detailing a series of steps. So that is form of bus. Small example what I say. You can just design it, because that's what how we find that when we ask student to instruct our form, they just randomly talk. When we ask for a reflection, they also just talk blah blah blah. So we need to teach them how it has to be processed. With reference to when we were talking about content writers, the job opportunities for e-learning industries, these all can help them to be very specific and in a very instructional form. So making tea, fill electric tea kettle, bring it to boil, pour hot water. So these were the steps where I found very different examples. Although this is very simple, everybody knows that, most of Indians know while making. Then somewhere very interesting answers occurred by stating that some said that look, we can have a tea, or then what sort of tea? Is it a herbal tea, or is it a black tea, or so many questions started coming. And with that reference, the form of fill electric tea kettle, bring it to boil, pour hot water in cup, put tea bags. That's how the making of tea algorithm was formed in structure. So basically all this form, that 5 stages we identified, and then we had tried to implement with our students. We found very different examples with that while problem solving. So with that, I think that is how the presentation was all about. These were the stages what I had planned for today, with all the web resources we had shared you. You also might be going through and check it kindly. Okay. Ma'am, from my side, I think it was not more than 40 minutes presentation, but I will be very happy to interact and share, discuss, or your opinions will be very well taken by me, and to make a form of changes, because what I understood was a one form of contextualization, which I deliberately put in that one. Then I try to understand in the term of making a structure. So with that, 5 stages of computational thinking as a pedagogical tool in a classroom, we had been thinking with that. So with that, I'll stop. I'll be happy to share or interact or just have a feedback, because that will help me to identify and to make it more clearer as well.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for that very informative session. I hope all the participants would open up for discussion so
Yeah.
that we would all be enriched and we would get many questions answered from Dr. Vidyanand, sir. Please.
Rather than question answers, we would be happy to share and discuss, because might be many of them might have tried this at depth. So what we had experimented as in terms of computational thinking in our classrooms, I just tried to share and explain with you. I'll be happy if you all shared and discuss and make. If you had any suggestions, or had you been tried out such methodology or technique, I'll be happy to get connected with you all.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good evening,
Yeah,
sir.
yeah, congratulations for your presentation. I
Thank
have
you,
a
Dr.
small
Sir.
doubt. Okay,
Yes,
see,
sir.
your topic is computational thinking.
Yeah.
I think this computational thinking is associated with cognitive process, right?
Sorry.
It's related with, it's a fully cognitive process. Thinking is
Cognitive.
cognition.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cognitive.
yeah, yeah. It's a cognitive process. See, if we put into practice computational thinking in the classroom situation, how will
Yeah.
you evaluate the students? So I think
Yeah.
this is a cognitive process. So some kind of qualitative aspects we have to take into consider. See what mechanism or what kind of strategies we are adopted to evaluate the students, if the students are in a proper or structured manner to solve that particular problem. How
Right.
yeah, that is one query. See, another one is that computational thinking and computational thinking models. So many models are available. See, what is the difference between these particular stages? You suggested four or five stages in computational thinking process. See, how it is. There are some kind of relationship between concept formation, sensation, perception, abstraction,
Correct.
concept
Correct.
formation that helps to leads to solving problems.
Yes. 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 Exactly.
Likewise,
True,
in
man.
your presentation, also same kind of patterns you
Yeah.
are put into place for leading or solving a particular problem. Is there a difference between these kind of concept formation stages and also computational thinking? Why computational thinking? Is it applicable to all type of subject, irrespective of science or art subject or other management subject, etc.? So many problems in the classroom situation. It is the responsibility of the teacher to create this equilibrium state. So all students are trying to make an equilibrium state, thereby developing their problem solving competence and skills. Likewise, see what is how competition thinking is very much significant. How much, like how far this particular strategy or model is very much significant in the present classroom situation. Okay, thank you.
Yes. Yes. Thank you, Paul. It has been wonderful, and that observations are very good. With that reference only, we are trying to develop a rubrics. Rubrics in terms of every stage. Although teacher has to work on that, what topics has to be covered while dealing with problem solving, because that has to be a challenge. That has to be challenge in terms of a student for certain thing. And that also all of a sudden it came to me while I was dealing with pandemic learning. So that online learning. So I just took that as online teaching learning process as an activity form, where they had asked them that. But as you rightly said, that what should be the evaluation tool? I think we have all that collaborative, multidisciplinary. What we have, collaborative problem solvings. We adopt such methods like collaborative problem solving. So collaborative problem solving also took in that way. So here what we had tried to do is that we had tried to develop a rubrics where we form a group different form of groups, and then we try to find that how much of involvement and how the problem has been taken. Definitely teacher as a facilitator has to take a very important role. As you said that the same observation was there, now perception, and that different models of computational thinking had been adopted in teaching learning process. Well, I was reviewing all that. No, they took it in their own way. That way, linking and collaborating. That way, the other problem or the other models had been tried, but not much of it has been tried in form of computational thinking. So contextualization we try to add in that way. At the same time, we are working on the terms of rubrics, how to get evaluated if certain topics from sciences, or sometimes I feel like topics like which are very gender empowerment. So can't we think of gender empowerment in form of computational thinking? Because gender empowerment contextually that also differs, although it is from social sciences. It can't be the same with rural, it can't be the same with urban. So can we have certain algorithm sequential forms, because issues of girls with a form different. So I was just thinking of that terms of social sciences as well, with reference to sciences, because in sciences we generally adopt problem solving, we adopt that methods, but in this method I found it's more specific, it's more concise, and it's to the point. So that's the reason I tried to make it. But still, what suggestion Dr. Paul had suggested, I'll take into consideration, and I'm happy that he had pointed out some issue which I took out my paper as well. Thank you. I tried to reach you. I don't know, because I'm still, your questions also had given me a different insight, and as insight in depth. So rubrics, definitely we had done it because it's a group activity where we are trying to make a group and where they will form it. But yes, social sciences and other things, how it has to be implemented and what should be the role of a facilitator at a different stage. That is to be, I think that is in the process of that. But thank you for the observation. Yes, Sangeeta ma'am, but I could not hear you.
Sangeeta, Mrs. Sangeeta,
yeah,
do
she
you have any
was.
questions?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So there is one question here in the chat box. How can we improve computational thinking? From Pavitra, there is a question.
Okay, I'll try to make it, because as we discussed, that 4 tasks and we had it in terms of contextualization. I found that the 4, every stage we can just inculcate. Not that every time that all form of learning can be included in your computational thinking, but decomposition. Very few time we try to ask students to make a part of it, make up problems, then sub problems, manageable problems. So gradually, if every stage, your analytical critical thinkings will develop. So I think not necessary that every time that a problem solving as an entire process, in few cases like a project, or in few cases like different topics we can allocate, but decomposition can be taught in where pattern recognition. That way pattern recognition, there are different patterns, how to identify the patterns, as we do in the logical thinking or verbal listening, we have that problem. So that way, that verbal form of thinking, that taste or that form can be inculcated, or that can be taught in the classrooms. So that every task is different. I think, that is the way you can take a decomposition hand. Then the second part is upon a pattern recognition, abstraction, algorithm. So when you ask for certain things, how will solve it? The small examples can be created, and then that form of task can be developed and can be implemented in the classrooms. Okay, something like, I don't understand. So very thank you. It's computational thinking. It's directly related to a person's intelligence. Right. No, intelligence itself is a very challenging word. So I don't think that, it's because if we work in a group, person is computational thinking. Definitely, it will enhance your cognitive skills, as Paul sir rightly pointed out. So definitely, and now personal intelligence rather than personal approach is important. Intelligence would be very difficult to judge or to measure in today's context. Vidya ma'am. We never know what solutions will come. I think we need to believe on student as well, because many of them say that students are not capable, they will not answer, they will not form. Why do we think like that? I don't know, because it might come in a different form, and every solution, we can't take any solution underestimated. We need to think on that, and teacher as a facilitator need to work on it. I mean, you can't just expect that certain thing has to be in a framework only. But when we talk about constructivism, when we talk about so many things, we need to accept the different answer and we need to channelize them.
There is still another question, sir.
In what
the chat box.
situation algorithm, that's what, yeah?
Yes.
Thinking is involved. In what situation algorithm thinking is nothing but a sequence of, no, that's what computational thinking is known as. If you had studied your computers or basic computers, they have to know that they had a problem. They are led and all that. They had a specific language and they find its solution. So similarly, when we talk about algorithm thinking or algorithm as a stage of or a task of involvement, we try to be more specific from 1, 2, 3, 4 like such stages to get solved in that case. So I think that is how algorithm work. I took it algorithm in terms of thinking process or in terms of making solutions, a specific solution in this computational thinking. I might not be the right person to talk about entirely algorithm thinking in computers or computers language. I think I tried to reach to Money ma'am. Money. So ma'am. Thank you. Yes.
So one more question, sir. Is
Yes, ma'am.
computational thinking different from, there is a question in the chat box. Is it different from
Critical thinking. Yeah, I got it, ma'am.
Right, sir.
Yeah. No, but I think we need to understand the computational thinking. Critical thinking can be a part of computational thinking because it could be a small part of it. It could be not in there. Critical is a very thorough form of that with well-versed knowledge. So that critical analytical thinking you required for computational thinking. So I took it in a broader way. Of course, critical thinking. Is very important, but we can't differ or segregate. You need to be very enough critical. How do we find pattern recognition? How do you decompose? You require critical form of thinking. If you know the base of it, then only you can decompose the problems, sub-problems, and manageable forms. Then if you go for a pattern recognition, you'll find that a similar pattern has to be formed. Similar patterns has to be recognized. So that all includes critical thinking process. So in broader stage of this computational thinking for problem solving, I think critical thinking is a part of it, which is an integral part of computational thinking. I think I tried to reach Ghanshyam. Thank you for wonderful questions. This is, I'm going to.
Thank you, sir, for all the answers too.
Yeah, because thank you, ma'am. I had been trying to see all of it, and I can see the approaches of a different form. So there are a few books which have been working with this computational thinking in European countries as well. So they had tried to make, few of them had implemented and tried to implementing in pedagogical form. Others are more like, in a very technical terms. So for me, I didn't thought of entirely technical, but in terms of pedagogical, as I like decomposition. If teachers have been inculcating at the right age at the childhood, the decomposition, pattern recognition, abstraction of the certain things, gradually they will lead to computational form of thinking. So with that point of view, I had been trying to do that.
Thank you, sir. Any more queries? Bindu ma'am, shall we move on?
Okay, Sindhu. Okay. Thank you very much, sir, for sharing a wonderful thought.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for inviting and have a wonderful researcher for interactions.
Thank you
sir.
once again, sir. Now I invite Sanila Manoj for the vote of thanks. Sanila, please.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. First of all, let me thank Almighty for this wonderful opportunity and for all the blessing that I showered throughout this meeting. let me thank our principal, Dr. K.Y. Benedict sir, who is the strength of our institution and because of whom we are gathered here. Sir, thank you so much. Now, let me express my gratefulness to our today's guest of honor, Dr. Vidyanand sir, Assistant Professor, Department of Education, Shivaji University, Kuala Lumpur, Maharashtra. Thank you so much, sir, for such a great interactive section and for such a great topic. Most of us find it as a new knowledge. Thank you so much for sharing such a great knowledge with us and also for clarifying our doubts. Thank you so much. Let me express my gratitude to Dr. Vidyanand sir on behalf of everyone present here. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Thank
Next.
you. Thank you, Sanila ma'am. It's Kolhapur. Kolhapur is in Maharashtra. It's known for Mahalakshmi and famous Mahalakshmi, which is famous for Kolhapur. That is in near to Pune. So I welcome you all as a researcher or part to our Department of Education for any academic cause or any form of that. Thank you.
Sorry, sir. Thank you, Kolhapur. Okay, thank you.
Yes, okay. It's okay. I understand.
Thank you so much, sir. Next, let me convey my gratitude to our research coordinator, Dr. Bindu ma'am, for all the support. Thank you so much, ma'am, on behalf of everyone present here. Thank you, Bindu ma'am. Now, let me express my gratefulness to our dear Dr. Ansi ma'am, Assistant Professor, Matthew Plus Training College, for all the technical support she is providing for our insight in depth from the very first talk. Thank you so much, dear Ansi ma'am. Now, let me express my wholehearted thanks for all the guides, teachers, research scholars, students of B.Ed and M.Ed, and all the well-wishers for your valuable presence, which make this initiative a great one. Thank you so much, everyone, for your participation. Next, let me thank all the research scholars who are present here and also who is doing the comparing Sindhu ma'am, welcome, who gave the welcome address, introducing the guests, all the partakers of the program. Thank you, everyone. Because of you all, our research scholars, this program is being a great success. Thank you, everyone. Once again, thank you all. We will meet again next week with a great, another thought-provoking insight in depth. Stay safe. May God bless you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you and God bless you all.
Thank you so much.
We
Sindhu ma'am.
appreciate
Shall I leave now?
Sorry, sir, the procedure is not been finished. It will be finished only after national anthem. Thank you.
Yes, sure, sure.
Sindhu ma'am. Sindhu ma'am, you're muted, ma'am.
Okay, sorry. Thank you, everyone. We appreciate your presence and participation in the program. Kindly fill the Google form for the e-certificate, which will be provided shortly. Let us now close the session with the national anthem.
Okay.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जनगण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
Happy Vishu and happy Easter for all our participants. Thank you so much for your participation.